graduated from a great school. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He's got this incredible resume, right? He could have chosen to work anywhere. Why he chose to go and work for a company like McKinsey that makes a hell of a lot of money off of putting people out of their jobs and has made a hell of a lot of money off of their consulting work in Afghanistan. Graduated from a great school.
This is why Gabbard needs to be on this stage. I mean, she goes in, she pursues this case. At this point, Warren has gently thrown a punch at Pete for similar things, meaning the work at McKinley. But this is why it's beneficial to have her on stage. Them two got into a tussle once before over issues of military. I believe he won the first one. I think she won the second one. But win or lose, and I don't mean it in terms of like a football game. I just mean it in terms of, I think her point rung home that much more true than his in making the argument for what they were arguing about. In this very particular case, Pete, non-transparent Buttigieg, has come at odds with media because media wants to get into his fundraisers. These things have been non-transparent, and Warren has been hitting him over it. Gabbard is making the point about his time at McKinley and issues of immigration and whatnot. Gabbard, unfortunately, has made it a decision. So this is Monmouth. Monmouth just came out, I think it was today. Biden, 26%. Sanders, 21%. Warren, trend holds. She's continuing to drop. 17%. Buttigieg, distant fourth. 8%. Gabbard, under 1%. This was a qualifying poll. Now, apparently, this was the first qualifying poll in 2 weeks to come out. And as you know, the DNC has chosen certain polls over others to determine whether or not a candidate qualifies for getting on the debate stage. Here's another poll. This one is Boston, Suffolk. Now, if you remember, there's a USA Today Suffolk poll, but this is a Boston, Suffolk. Same polling agency, different location. Now, in this poll, Gabbard gets 6%. Right here, 6.2. This poll, however, does not qualify. Despite being the same polling agency, it was determined that this poll didn't qualify, meaning that up to this point, Gabbard has not qualified to be on a debate stage. She's met the donor threshold. It's a polling issue. Gabbard has come out and said this. For a number of reasons, I've decided not to attend the December 19th debate, regardless of whether or not I qualify for the polls, by the polls. I instead choose to spend the precious time directly meeting with and hearing from people of New Hampshire and South Carolina. Effectively, Gabbard is saying, I'm not going to be on a debate stage, whether or not I qualify. Now, the qualification deadline is Thursday. End of day on Thursday, meaning if she was going to qualify, there had to be a poll, again, strangely, 2 weeks off between a qualifying poll, but there has to be a poll by the end of the day on Thursday that has her qualifying, and up to this point, that hasn't happened. So with 2 days to go, she's taken the decision to, you're not going to fire me, I quit. In which case she says, I'm just going to be with New Hampshire and essentially pursue the campaign in those terms. I get it. Like I said, you're not going to fire me, I quit. Fair enough. And when you look at speaking time, especially the arguments that Yang has been making and the vilification that she's been getting, I get it. The polls come across as almost arbitrary. And the 2-week distance between the two, effectively the DNC created a system it didn't control. I mean, how are you using polling of various companies that you don't control in order to determine who's going to be on the debate stage? Now, I know someone could say the arbitrary nature of this is part of the test. Fair enough, but it's not wrong for the people who are at the edge of that or taking the blunt end of that to kind of complain about that. In this case, she's being proactive and saying, I'm not going to be on a debate stage whether I get a qualifying poll or not. I think this is a horrible idea, at least the or not. I do understand it. I do get the I'm taking this upon myself. You're not going to be unfair to me and vilify me. In an odd way, the vilification of Tulsi, this exclusion from the group, makes her, strangely enough, part of the group. She has a certain identity on the debate stage, especially by members of the Democratic Party. Now, this debate is going to be hosted by PBS and I forget the other agency. So it's not the exact same thing as the MSNBC debate and how valid that particular debate was. Hopefully, with all the criticism that's been dumped on how the last debate was handled, this one would be handled tepidly better. But that's kind of besides the point. The debate stage, I know it's degrading. I know it's not necessarily something that people like to do. But it is the focal point where people can at least get some level of a difference of opinion, especially from the standpoint of you. And if you are not on that debate stage, and yes, this is selfish of me, but if you're not on the debate stage, Sanders doesn't get the room to the left to be hit on foreign policy. Meaning, your point of view is such that it is different than many of the members on that stage. And the only person who may be even closest to you and at least opening that window is Sanders. But that is different than you having a fully formed, very clear point of view in regards to foreign policy that is antagonistic to everybody else, mostly everyone else that's on that stage. And so having conversations that come up about foreign policy, like the Afghan files, those Afghan papers that just dropped, you would be a perfect person to talk about that, since that's something that you have been talking about for years. If you're not on that stage, that doesn't get leaned into. But again, I get it. If your name is Tulsi Gabbard and you look like you're being shafted, I mean, there has been polls come out for 2 weeks. It looks like they're trying to create that gulf intentionally to keep certain people off that stage. Yang, because he hasn't also qualified. He's 1 poll away. And yeah, Gabbard, the rebel rousers. We don't want those guys on the stage. Those guys, they're not our crowd. So it does come across as if that gulf, even though you may look at it and say, oh, dude, that's not intentional. Do you know that? Well, no, I don't know that it is, but I don't know that it's not. And I do know that they hate her guts. And I do know that they chose various polling agencies when there were other polling agencies that was just as good. My point is, you could look at that and say that gulf looks somewhat intentional. And even if it's not, it's a certain degree of incompetence. Intentionally so, in order to keep certain people off that stage as opposed to others. I can entirely see her looking at that and saying, this process is rigged. I don't want to be a part of a rigged process. The problem is, it's only 2 days before the debate. Meaning, if you're going to make that choice, I think you have to make that choice earlier on. But nevertheless, I get her point. It's the whole thing of, even if I qualify. If you qualify, you should be on that debate stage. You should be making your point of view known, especially with the information that's been released from the standpoint of those Afghan files. Just saying. I don't like this choice, even though I understand it. I get where she's coming from, but I don't like it. Most just want her on stage to say what others won't. Tulsi 2020, Silver Surfer. Maybe. And it's not just, saying what others want, not blabbering, just kind of out of the way. More so, very specifically on issues of foreign policy, at least for me. I mean, my whole thing is, she was willing to say, we are supporting terrorists in Syria. That was true. That was a true thing. In spite of the media gaslighting the public into pretending otherwise. She has been saying beforehand, we have been supporting Saudi Arabia. This is not something we should be supporting. And by the way, the terrorists attacked. We were attacked by another terrorist from Saudi Arabia. That's her stuff. Like that stuff is like manna from heaven for her. Like that's kind of my point. She should be on that debate stage, especially in December. And that voice, that focal point on this issue of foreign policy, especially with these specific issues, resonate with her. Like, I think it's insane to say that you won't be on the stage if you qualify. Again, even though I know why she's saying it. You've always been honest, Jamarl. You called her for her sword. I respect that. Yes. Yeah, she's my sword. Foreign policy. I mean, people support people for all sorts of reasons. In my case, it's the foreign policy part. Tulsi will surprise you all, and she don't need to debate to do that. Farad Razavi. I massively disagree with you with that. But fair enough. You could be right. I could be entirely wrong. Alright, I'm going to end this. I don't want this video to be long. I just want to give a heads up. Tulsi is saying that she won't be on the debate stage, even if she qualifies for a poll. She's only one poll away from qualifying. There's been a 2-week off between polls, so who knows if there's going to be any more polls between now and the end of the day on Thursday. But she has preemptively said, I won't be on the debate stage. I understand it. I just don't like it. Especially if you're staying in the debates. Staying in the contest. Like, share, subscribe.